All right, I wanted to show everyone a real case example of the first property that I ever bought. This duplex is in Parma, Ohio. I bought this at the very beginning of 2018. I was 21, just finishing up college, worked full time through college. That's why I was able to buy this with a 3.5% down FHA owner occupied loan. So I lived in the upstairs and rented out the basement. And there's a number of points I want to make here. It's not just to say, good job to me. It's about what are the concepts that you all can apply. And so the biggest thing is being able to get into an asset with a very low down payment, long-term, fixed rate, low rate debt, even today in 2025, what you can get for an owner-occupied loan, in the sixes, is very low historically, and you can't do that with other assets. And also, the straight line fixed rate depreciation, you can't, again, you can't get that with most assets. So that is hugely valuable. And I had a net worth of about zero at the time, so can just be life changing over time. And there's a number of things I would do differently in hindsight, but this is a simple box from 1950. This much of this has been updated. My realtor did everything he could to make this look as nice as possible, but I rehabbed it when I got in there. I painted this awful color. I didn't know what I was doing. The realtor I used to buy it wasn't a good realtor in hindsight. I overpaid. I think it was 134,500 that I paid for this thing. The seller didn't make good on many of their promises, or actually contractual agreements, where they didn't transfer to me some of the things they were supposed to transfer after. The realtor didn't help me after the sale because, again, in hindsight, she was terrible. This place has knob and tube wiring. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It has asbestos tiles in the basement, right? None of these things got fixed, and it had furnaces older than me. So I did a lot of things wrong. I should have gotten substantially more seller concessions. Here's the basement, or paid less for this in the first place. I didn't do a good job rehabbing it. I didn't know what I was doing. Then I hired a terrible property manager who screwed me in hindsight. Their incentives were not aligned with mine. I needed a new roof, and so that was the biggest expense I've ever put into this. I put about $10,000 into it for a new roof for the shed and for the building, which was ridiculously high in 2019. They didn't manage it well. I had to switch to a new property management company after a couple years. All that to say, I did everything wrong with this property. However, real estate is very forgiving over the long term. So again, I bought it for, I think it was 134,500. I put 3.5% down. Sellers covered much of the closing costs, so I barely put in more than that 3.5%. Call it, 5,500 or six grand total, which was all of my money at the time, pretty much. The only reason I was able to do this is because I worked full time through college and had a lower middle class income, paid for school, so I didn't have debt there. I had a car note, but it was small. Anyways, so I got into this thing for a low, low amount of money. And there's just aren't other assets that you can buy for such a low down payment with long-term fixed rate debt other than house hacking real estate like this. And that's one of the biggest points I want to make. If you're starting at zero, as long as you have a good job and maintain your credit, getting into something is, I think, one of the most important things you can do, assuming you're house hacking it like I did this, to start building wealth. Now, I moved pretty shortly after this to Colorado, ended up just renting it out, not house hacking it that long, but I did do the whole rehab myself. Now, with that roof, I put in another 10 grand. That was a struggle for me at the time. I mean, this was early 2019. I hadn't really figured out how to make much money, and I actually got a no interest intro credit card that I put most of it on and then paid it off slowly. And then there were a few other repairs and months that I had to put money into it. So collectively, I put about 20 grand into this thing between the down payment, the rehab, and the roof, because the rehab was really minimal. It was, paintings, simple stuff, and I did it all myself. So here we are years later, 2025, middle of the year, and I decided to sell it. And part of my thinking is, well, it's kind of threefold. Number one, the return on equity in this thing was terrible. I had, 100 or a little over in equity, and the taxes are very, very high in Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland and the surrounding area. And so getting almost no cash flow out of this, obviously it's appreciated. And then at the same time, Cleveland's market is still really hot. So I figured I'd be able to sell a property not in the best condition with some problems, knob and tube wiring, old furnaces, etc., at a high price. And then number three, there are some unpleasant laws coming for out-of-state landlords for the Cleveland area that I think I'm going to have to, that would be very expensive as far as management goes. So all that to say, I don't live in Ohio. I don't go there. I don't do anything there. I'm not buying more properties there. There's no reason for me to own this given all of those factors. So I listed it and it went pending above ask. We had it at 235 within a week. And I'm able to sell this thing, a 1950s duplex, not in great condition, lots of capex going to be needed, quickly and easily. We have the clear to close. I'm signing with a notary here later this morning, and 100,949. Well, there's also this that's getting dispersed to me, some additional rent, plus I've taken money out of this. So all things considered, I will have gotten about $110,000 out of this for having put $20,000 into it and using the handy chat GPT from April 2018 to today. The money I got out versus the money I put in is approximately a 26.5% return, which is pretty good. But again, what's so powerful is I did this with no money. If I had put $5,000 or $6,000, whatever my initial down payment was, into the stock market, it would have done well and gone up, but not very much because I would have only gotten a return on that six or whatever $1,000 because of the cheap and fairly safe, because it's fixed long-term leverage I'm able to use. I was able to get appreciation on a hundred and something $1,000 asset from day one. And that is what is so powerful is the leverage that's available. So yeah, this was the first property I ever bought. Collectively got about 110 grand out of it, including the cash that's sitting in the corresponding account from rents. And I had no money when I started this, and I did everything wrong. So real estate's very, very forgiving in the long run if you hold. And I just don't know how you can do this with any other asset starting from nothing. So what's the point? The point is, if you don't have any money, going and house hacking is one of the most effective things you can do to start building wealth. I moved to Colorado after this. I bought a house, 4 bed, 3 bath, rented that out. That's still a great rental today. I'm not getting rid of that because I love the area and the asset itself. And that also changed my life. I wouldn't have been able to quit my job if I hadn't have done that house hack. And again, I was able to get into that one with a very, very low net worth and down payment. So I hope that's helpful, guys. This is a real example. I grew up in a cornfield in Ohio. My parents never owned a business. No one in my family's ever owned a business. So there's really no reason you guys can't go and do this too.